Oh, didn't see you there. Hi, let's get started on our next video. This one's all about the marketplace. We're going to start with knowledge of marketplace. I do want to point out that both knowledge of marketplace and conducting market research, they go hand in hand with each other. There's a good reason that they are concurrent. They also go really well with the other assignments that are concurrent. So let's get started on them. Knowledge of the marketplace. Hey, look, market research. It's got a hyperlink. Let's click on it. There's the definition. Did you read it? I hope you did. So market research is the process of systematically gathering, recording, and analyzing data about a product, process, or service. We're talking about the customers, competitors, and the market demand. The information gathered during market research can help a research engineer or designer make decisions, create a plan of action, fine-tune an existing product or service, expand into new markets, or even create a totally new invention. Wouldn't that be super rad if you created a totally new invention? Maybe you could profit off of it. Maybe I could profit off of it. This process, it might result in a new product, a process, or service. So take this particular process of market research very, very seriously. All right, so at this point, you've already determined that the problem your team wants to solve exists and is valid. Or at least we hope that you have at this point. You could concurrently be working on that still, but you're on your way to proving that it's valid. And if you're proving that it's invalid, you're on your way to changing what the actual problem is that you need to solve. Now you want to ensure that the problem is worth solving so that your efforts aren't wasted. This assignment is all about justifying the effort and expense required to solve a problem. The information you collect and organize for this project will become components of the project proposal, like everything else that you're doing at the moment. Ooh, my tea's too hot. Your resources, very similar to what you've seen in the past: an engineering notebook, a computer or some device with internet access. We seem to always need those these days. And then a page on justifying a project, and a page called Knowledge of the Marketplace Checklist. There only seem to be 3 things on this page. All 3 of them are presentations. I would encourage that you look at all 3 of these. The first one, justifying a problem academically or ethically. Is there a large volume of evidence supporting my claim that this problem is in fact worth solving and is a problem? Would solving this problem actually help people? Can I prove that there would be a market for a product that solves this problem? Remember, you're justifying your problem. 2 pathways to justification: academically or ethically, market research. Both are valid, both are important. We as engineers hope to make the world a better place. In almost all disciplines of engineering, you'll find the organization that governs that body is dedicated to the public interest and the moral responsibility of engineers. In this course, projects can be justified ethically through academic research of some type, and this represents the highest order of achievement. This should be the starting point for all of us. Market research, some problems are worth solving, but they have no research in the past to draw on. Once you have documented your search of the academic pathway, you might find better justification could be showing that there's market for your product. Take, for example, these cross-country skis that this student developed. He didn't do that because there was a lot of research out there saying that this needed to be done. He did it because he knew that there was a market for this product based on the research that he conducted himself. Where are we in the research phase? Well, this is basically step 5. Step 1, we came up with areas of interest. You brought them to the table. We talked about them, put you in groups based on the ones that you all felt were the best ones to try and go out there and do some research on. Step 2, this was also something we did when forming the teams. We started to take these large concept ideas and narrow them down. Step 3, this is where we tried to come in and put our teams together so that we could focus on one area of interest for that team. This is where you literally formed your teams. Step 4, this is all about the team going out and doing that preliminary research. You're currently doing this and have been for about a week now. Step 5, the team goes out and starts to justify the problem, but then the next step is a concise problem statement. That's why a lot of you are just now getting to the point where you are writing that problem statement and trying to determine, is this problem valid? Here is why. Now let's justify the fact that it needs to be solved. Even though you've done some work in component B and C, this comes back out of component A. This is because we are focusing mostly on the justification, the research that's dedicated to justifying our problem. Is it ethically or academically, or is it market research based? Now what we need to get into is who says it's a problem worth solving. Provide a bunch of different sources for this if we can. Get different arguments from different perspectives. I feel or I think has no place in engineering design and development. You need to remove that language of affection and learn the language of report. Technical report. Assume no one believes you. Prove every point with a fact. From this point forward, it's critical to always capture two things: what was said and who said it. This is where we're going to gather information and then we're going to cite it. That could be information that you go out and find. It could be interviews. Regardless, you need to know how to make sure it's done properly. Where do you look for the best justification of your product? You ought to be looking for things that are peer-reviewed, editor-reviewed, or credentialed experts have written them. Make sure that other people believe that same source. Make sure that that source is valid itself and can be backed up with facts. 5 common attack paths for justifying a problem: health and safety, legal issues, economics, technical problems, and educational. A diverse spread of acceptable sources makes for a better case of justification. 5 good sources is usually enough. Using 3 different attack paths, 4 great sources will do, providing 4 different attack paths. I've already introduced you to some of these research tools. Well, at least I've pointed you in a direction. That brings us to conducting market research surveys. It's a little bit shorter, 6 slides. It's got some good information in it. I would encourage you to read through this one, but I want to point out things like 200 to 300 respondents. That's a lot of data. You're going to have to become a data manager real quick. Lots of hats, like this one. 40 years of this, and I'm still not an expert at research. When you do these surveys, emphasize to the people participating, there's no right or wrong answers. You're looking for their input. You should probably be pretty careful about who you select. You may want to select a certain group of people because it impacts them the most. Or if your product is widespread, you may want to find people that are from a variety of different backgrounds. However, you need to make sure you find people who aren't siding already on one side and not another. It wouldn't really make sense for you to go out and try to prove or justify that there is a need for a new electric vehicle and only talk to people who own a Tesla or a Prius. Choose impartial respondents. And then give them lots of time to respond. Make sure that this survey that you build, that you create and you put out there is open for a while. Or you give them an amount of time and you say, please have it done by this end date, and you provide them with a week, maybe 2, which means you have to move quickly on this. And then think about the questions that you're providing them in the survey. Make sure you have a plan to analyze that information. Doing it the night before, not a good idea. Keep it simple. Use checkboxes or numeric scales. Follow up the question that you ask with why. So you say that you like this particular product or this particular idea. Why is that? Google survey is really good. And if you provide a particular answer, it can take you to another section that then asks why. Don't use not. In other words, try to phrase your questions in such a way that aren't negative in their terminology. Try to phrase them in such a way that provides clear answers. If you ask the question, do you not like red? Somebody could say, no, but what does that mean? No, they don't like red, or no, they don't not like red. Avoid not. Make sure that your questions are ordered logically. Don't ask about the color red, and then ask about the color green, and then come back to asking about different shades of red after green. Talk about red, shades of red, green, shades of green. And then make sure that it's easy to read. Can't tell you the number of times that I receive surveys, emails, things that people think, oh, I'm going to make this pretty backgrounds with lots of graphics. No, make it simple and easy to the point. Think about some of those products that are out there that work the best. Things like Mac or Microsoft. These logos, these products, these corporate identities, they're simple, fine-tuned, easy to see and understand. Make your statements simple and your surveys easy to follow. Here's some example questions. Look them over. Moving on. Berry. Let's get into the guts of this, the procedure. Gather information to help your team with the upcoming project proposal. Be sure to document all of your research and include, if applicable, contact information and references in the appropriate sections of your ENB. Have you set that up yet? I hope so. Create a preliminary draft Google Doc for each section of your electronic portfolio/technical report. This may be something you've already started to do. Some of you have shown me that you've put together some Google Docs, that you've started this process of building documentation. Great. Make sure it's accessible. Make sure you've looked through all of those scored examples and you can get a sense of what flows well for those 3, 4s, and 5s. Make sure that you use the headings listed below. Document the required information. As with the technical writing you have completed in possibly some of your other PLTW courses, like your portfolio and IED, all the information should be succinct and well organized. In addition to that, doesn't hurt to make it aesthetic. And by that I don't mean make it flashy, but make it clean and neat. It's a technical report. Look that up. I'm not going to be too much help with, is this technical report correct? My job in the end is to assess what you've written. Your job, look up these technical reports and dig through the resources that we've provided you. Scored examples. I hope you get my hints there. By the due date, when you turn in this assignment, you need to submit access to the documents that you create. Make sure I have them and your teammates can get to them as well. The instructor, that's me, you, together in a meeting the day after this is due so that we can discuss the preliminary work that you've started. And then I want to be able to provide you with some suggestions, though I really want to hear from you as a team. What did you create? Why did you create it? Some of you have probably reached out to me at this point already. Good start. Keep going. This is an all or nothing assignment. You have to make sure that I have access to it and it meets the requirements, or you do it again. Do the work, earn the points. All of this work will be fully assessed in its completed form during the project proposal, with the rest of the work submitted for that assignment at that time. Let's talk about existing similar products. You've already gotten into some of this. Well, hopefully you have. Use your research from prior and some of those concurrent assignments that you're working on now, as well as any additional research as you find necessary, to gather information about existing products that address your team's problem. Hopefully at this point, you've really started to hammer down what that problem statement is. For each similar product that you find, you need to describe the product, including things like images. You need to explain why that product as a solution falls short. Detail why your solution will be better, more valuable than the others that already exist. You have to evaluate the competition. You'll likely detail some products or systems that you previewed when you were investigating similar products. While those are important to evaluate, it is especially important to consider how people are avoiding the problem or solving the problem in an unanticipated way. What's currently being done to avoid the problem might be your biggest competitor. When evaluating the competition, answer these questions. What are your major competitors? On what basis do you compete with them? And how does your product compare to theirs? Who are potential future competitors as well? What are the barriers to entry for new competitors? What about identifying users and buyers? We're talking about end users and consumers, people who use your product and people who purchase your product. So this section of this part of the assignment, of this portion of your technical report, it should identify and describe in detail the anticipated users and buyers of your product. You might want to use a graphic organizer. Hey, there's a hyperlink there. I bet you could click on it and find out what a graphic organizer really is. So at this point, we've covered existing similar products, evaluating the competition, and identifying those users and buyers. Now let's talk about the market. Specifically, identify your anticipated target market. When you're writing about this stuff, we want to know specifically what that target market is. You need to include at a minimum the age, income, the education level, and the geographic location of this market. You need to explain why this is or should be the target market. Many times, demonstrating the existence of a market can be accomplished using indirect evidence. If I propose to solve a problem with unintentional dialing of a particular model of a cell phone, we refer to that a lot of times as butt dialing. You can document evidence on the number of users of this model of cell phone. Make an educated guess to be able to estimate what you believe could be your market share. Determine as accurately as possible the total available market. Now, I want to point out in the last 2 paragraphs, there's 1, 2, 3 different hyperlinked definition words. Click on, find out what they mean. Target market, market share, available market. And for the final part here, the actual justification. You're justifying the expense and effort that it's going to take to design a solution to your team's problem by discussing the relative size of the market and your preliminary plan to reach the target market. You have to tell us what are you going to do and prove to us it's worth it, that it is worth the investment. In the end, be sure that whatever it is that you create as a document, you upload it either as a website URL or some file. Your choice. You get to decide. But I've given you lots of resources to go and look and see what people have done before. Mimicry is okay, but innovation might be better. Blow our socks off. Show us that you've done the research and you've documented it in a way that makes the most sense, especially for your particular product. 50 points for this one. Remember, all or nothing. That brings us to the end of knowledge of the marketplace. If you have questions, definitely reach out to me. I hope you all are having a good time in class, and I hope you have a great night. It's Goldilocks. Did you notice it's Han Solo cups? They're good cups.